Thank you again, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm pleased to present a snapshot of the proposed Planning and Development Services budget for fiscal year 2016-2017. I'll start out with a snapshot of the department. It consists of 4 divisions: administration, building inspections, health, and planning and zoning. It also has 2 divisions that are a part of the CDBG funding for comprehensive planning and neighborhood development. The staffing in the department consists of 37 individuals, 32 full-time, 5 part-time at this point, and it's composed of a variety of individuals with different levels of education and expertise. We have our case managers for all of the development intake, building inspectors by trade, permit technicians, plans examiners, restaurant sanitation inspectors, inspectors for our rental certificate of occupancy program, which we're celebrating the 10th complete year this year on. And finally, tourism coordinators with Historic Mesquite, Inc. Programming within the department, again, is varied and consists of all the development intake and processing. This is what we often refer to as current planning. Comprehensive planning is long-range visioning for parts of the community. Zoning enforcement, and this is increasingly taking more of our time here with this, and I have to relay this rather amusing story that Mr. Brian Bader related to me today. One of the things that it seems like we're on top of nowadays, more than just about anything else, is the control of 8-liners in establishments. And you've heard me speak before about how we find sham shop fronts who may, for example, say, I'm a convenience store with 4 8-liners, and you go in, there's just a couple shelves full of expired food, and everything else is 8-liners in the establishment. Well, there's a new one that Brian ran across today in a convenience store where to enter the area with the 8-liners, you actually had to walk through the coolers. Okay? That was a new one. We haven't seen that one before. We also enforce the International Property Maintenance Code in target neighborhoods. We deal with all permitting on private side construction. We enforce compliance with all of our various ICC codes. Of course, the Texas Food Code establishment enforcement, as well as our RCO program, and then one of our continually growing areas is vector control monitoring. The major challenges that we continue to face, especially in the coming year, is to achieve a go-live on our Develop 21 software project, which was started last year within budget, and then educating the development community on the customer side improvements. One of the primary purposes, of course, of our new software system is to improve the way that customers can submit plans and go through the permitting process and communicate with all of the inspection staff as well as staff from the various departments that are involved in development review. Another major challenge is the emerging vector threats. Of late, our primary threat has been West Nile virus. You're aware of 2012, which seemed like an anomaly year. And it was indeed, of course, an anomaly year from the standpoint of the human cases for West Nile. But ever since then, we have continued to experience a high number of positive West Nile virus traps. This year, the city of Mesquite actually has more positive West Nile virus traps than any other community in the Metroplex, including the city of Dallas. Okay? So we've had a lot of vector control activity this year. In terms of emerging threats, you may have seen the reports over the weekend where now Zika is no longer just a threat from the standpoint of going to South America and returning, but apparently some mosquitoes in Florida have actually transmitted the virus Zika down in that state. And it's probably, given the way nature works, just a matter of time before we are also having to deal with that threat. And finally, it's always a major challenge to ensure high-quality development in our greenfield and brownfield areas, which present to us some of the greatest opportunities for new development within the city of Mesquite. In the near term and beyond, three things I just want to always keep on everyone's radar screen is some programming that we have in mind for the future. The Develop 21 project is just the beginning of our technology innovations when it comes to permitting and development review. There's going to be a next generation of development permit, citizen access, and efficiency. Develop 21 is not going to be the end of the story. Yes, it's going to help us tremendously, but there are things to do in the future that will increase the opportunities for citizens and developers to be able to communicate and submit documents online, and even including the small homeowner to be able to submit those kinds of things online. A second programming issue out in the future is making sure that we're able to create sustainable standards for our hotel-motel sector beyond just the minimum. You know, it's just the nature of codes that when you establish the minimum requirements, that is basically what people meet. They meet the minimums. Well, if we've learned anything from the hotel-motel inspection enhanced programs through T25, it's that minimum is okay. And we're doing a good job at bringing hotels and motels back to at least the minimum standard. But let's not stop there. Let's look at the next tier of improvements that we can make so that we can continue to raise the level of the public accommodations that we have here in Mesquite. And finally, a new Unified Development Code. This is something we actually started on a few years ago, but due to constraints of time and so forth, we were never able to complete it. But it is important that we keep in mind the total revamping of our zoning code and building codes and so forth. Our zoning code right now was adopted in 1973, and that was a watershed year for zoning ordinances all around the country because most cities were accomplishing that by way of grants. But we're still sitting now in year 43 of the basic framework in our zoning ordinance, and it needs to be updated, to say the least. I'm going to outline the budget offers that our department has for your consideration. The first is our vector control program at $21,500 a year, and I'll give more detail about each of these in just a moment. An additional building inspector at a cost of $53,046 a year. Florence Ranch coordinator, this is a part-time position, of $14,250. And finally, a proposal for us lending design assistance to shopping center owners who wish to take part in the renovation of our shopping centers. This is a proposed one-time cost of $95,000. First, the vector control program. There are several things we want to accomplish with this expenditure of $21,500 annually. It's to continue to reduce the threat of mosquito-borne illnesses. We're not going to be able to eliminate mosquitoes. They're always going to be ahead of us, but we can, with additional personnel, actually keep up with the number of positive traps that we're experiencing. We'll be able to give an increased time response to the neighborhoods with those positive traps. Our current goal is to, whenever we get a positive trap, to reach that neighborhood that evening, or certainly no more than 24 hours later, and then to be able to follow up that application with a second application within 48 to 72 hours. What we're having an extremely difficult time doing right now with our existing resources is hitting that a second time. Hitting those neighborhoods a second time. The budget offer for a building inspector has, as part of its proposed outcomes, a consistent focus on improved resolution of our T25 issues, as well as other dilapidated properties, and increasing our commercial field inspections. I've handed out to you some supplemental material that I hope after today you'll have a chance to take a look at. But it tells you a lot about the increased demand we have right now for inspection. Our focus on the hotel-motel program, which again has been extremely effective, has actually increased the workload by over 212 man-days. 212 man-days over a year's time period. As a result of that, we are having to shift existing inspectors who any other time would be doing other kinds of duties, such as target neighborhood work, and shifting them to some of our dilapidated, deteriorating properties. We believe with this additional building inspector, not only will we be able to accommodate what has essentially become the one full-time hotel-motel inspector, but be able to keep up with other hotel-motels that are part of the program, as well as our deteriorating properties. We believe this actually is aligned with two of the council's goals, and the first being neighborhood appearance and condition, and then secondly, the shopping center revitalization. The third budget offer is the Florence Ranch Coordinator. We are wanting to increase the utilization of Lawrence Park. In order to do that, we really need attention paid to the Florence facility. Right now, the coordinator switches back and forth between Lawrence and Florence 2 days a week each. Okay? There's actually much more demand that we could be satisfying with respect to the Lawrence Park if we had a Florence Ranch Coordinator. We also believe this could improve our outreach to the minority population. Some of our primary services that we render are to the school system. We can reach a lot of children. We could actually accommodate much more by way of tours and other kinds of outreach if we had the ability for additional Lawrence Ranch tours. And finally, the budget offer for shopping center design assistance. The fact of the matter is that if there's going to be progress made on shopping center revitalization, the city needs to be able to step forward and offer and lend assistance to willing shopping center owners who want to upgrade their property. Now, will architectural design assistance alone make the difference for a total renovation of a shopping center? Probably not, but it's a key factor to be considered by the shopping center owner because, and I've mentioned this many times before, we are often asked the question, what is it that the city of Mesquite wants to see? Okay, owners of property, whether it's shopping centers, other kinds of development, they want to know what's in our vision, what would we like to see, and by our lending assistance to them and coming up with some designs for the renovation of their shopping centers, it could go a long way towards taking us down that road. Last year, several of us had an opportunity to take a look at the program, very similar program in the city of Carrollton, which has been extremely successful there, as well as the city of Garland. Again, this is a one-time proposed cost of $95,000. And actually, this money, I believe, could be used for at least architectural assistance on 2 shopping centers, not just one, okay, but 2 shopping centers. Here's a look at the proposed budget. On the general fund side, we have an increase over the amended 2016 budget of 7.5%. Now, the amended 2016 is lower than what was originally budgeted for this year. That's because we had some significant salary savings throughout our particular organization. So when you compare their proposed for next year to our current amended budget for this year, it results in that 7.5%. And we're about even on the CDBG side of things. So to summarize, our proposed general fund budget is $2.4 million. We have increased departmental activity and needs for services in the coming year because West Nile virus and other types of viruses, the threat for those things are on the rise. We have increased demand for our building inspection activity on dilapidated properties, condemned properties, property maintenance, and so forth. Unmet citizen demand for the use of our 2 heritage park systems, and then our distressed shopping centers are looking for guidance from the city, and we believe that some effective and low-cost design assistance can help turn the page on that program. And those are our 4 budget offers: the vector control program at $21,500, the building inspector $53,000, Florence Ranch coordinator, and finally the shopping center design assistance, a one-time cost of $95,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions on his budget offer, proposal at this point?
Well, not a budget question, but if you told me, I didn't pick up on it, but what's the definition or the difference between a greenfield opportunity and a brownfield opportunity?
Okay. Greenfield is an open slate. In other words, there's never been development on that particular parcel. Brownfield is one that's had prior development, and we can repurpose the property for something else, as opposed to a gray field, which is an environmental hazard that it's difficult to do anything with. So.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Bruce?
Yes, sir.
So much a budget question, but also with regard to the mentioned earlier on the enforcement on the stores that have the 8 mile games.
Yes, sir.
How are we doing overall with enforcement with regulations and making sure those are all proper, et cetera? Tell me how we're doing.
Well, I'm going to give a pat on the back to Brian Bader, who is a building inspector, as well as our zoning compliance officer. He is out not only during the day, but works quite a bit in the evenings as well as on the weekends. Just before I came over here, he handed me, I'll say, evidence that he has collected on 6 particular properties where it looks like we have a sham business going on. And so we're probably going to have some more CO revocation activity here in just the next couple months. I believe, Councilmember Archer, we're making a lot of progress in that regard. It is tough to stay on top of it. A lot of things are happening out there, but we believe that if we keep up the pressure, if I may call it that, on the shopping center owners as well as the tenants that lease a lot of these spaces, it may cause some temporary turnover. We understand that. But in most cases, I want to assure you, we're not talking about established businesses that bring in a lot of sales tax to the city, but rather those that have a hard time staying afloat to begin with, or they're conducting activities that probably are not the most desirable for our city.
I appreciate that a lot. As far as your vector control, I'll just say that in the last couple of years, I've dealt with several situations, residents who had concerns about standing water here and there and other problems. And Barry and his folks have just always been very attentive at those concerns. So I'm really proud of the work that they've done that I've seen so far.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other? That's fine. Any other questions or comments? And I'm seeing a lot of shaking side to side, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.